A motion by Heidi Marty and a second by Sarah Johansson. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the agenda is approved. Next is open forum for community comments, and I don't believe we had anybody sign up to address the board. Thank you. So we move to approval of the consent agenda containing routine business items. Unless there is an item that somebody would like removed for individual consideration, we could entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Ann Casey and a second by Michelle Kuntz. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and the consent agenda is approved. As always, it's a joy to move on to share the success and recognitions. And this evening, we are joined by North Education Center Principal Antoine Williams. Antoine, please step up to the mic and share the success with us.
All right. Good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair and Superintendent Dow and the rest of the board members. So tonight, we are here to honor 3 of our students at North Education Centers Academies. And the reason why we're honoring these 3 individuals, I'm sharing tonight about these 3 individuals because I believe they share a lot of the same characteristics as District 287. You know, my hope is that you don't only take away and learn about what our students are doing, but also take away what the good work educators are doing here at North Education Center and in District 287. So with that being said, I want to talk about Quadier Dunn. So Quadier Dunn enrolled at North Education Center Academy as a 10th grader, and that was right around the spring of 2020. Quadier was actually referred by his brother, who graduated 2 years prior to him. And one story I would like to share about Quadier, what makes him special, is when George Floyd's death happened, our school, we had, the students really talked about how could they peacefully protest and show solidarity with what was going on with the family. And Quadier and some of his peers in the ALC led a protest that, was supported in the rain. And Quadier actually wrote a poem for that, which I will share at a later time. I'll just push out to Ms. Juanine, and then Ms. Juanine can give it to everybody else. But one thing characteristic about Quadier is he's a learned person, or old soul, as some would say. The next student that I would like to talk about is Halan Hackett. Halan came to us again from Maple Grove as a 9th grader, and this was the spring of 2017. Halan, he's a unique story because he's one that continued to persist and overcome. Right around the time of COVID, Halan was actually hitting the ground running and working hard and on course to graduate. COVID hit. Of course, we had to go distant learning, and we know that didn't work for everybody. And that in that same sense, Halan also had to take care of family and started to continue to work and kind of fell off of school. But with support from his teachers and staff to bring him back to the table, we can now say Halan has graduated. And all 3 have, by the way. And last but not least is Rico, Tarico Wallace. Tarico Wallace came to us as a 12th grader, and he too has a story of overcoming. I will not be able to share their stories, and I wish they were here to share their stories with you. But Tarico was also someone who struggled, had a lot of death in family, and didn't really want to be at school. 3 weeks before he graduated, I remember having a conversation with Rico, and he told me, he was like, I'm done. And he called me Twan, by the way. Twan, I'm done. I'm finished. I'm not coming back. Rico, you have to, man. No, I'm done. 2 days, didn't see him. And it was Halan Hackett who picked him up from the house to bring him to school. So I'm gonna sum it up like this. When you think about these 3 stories, you hear about people who are old souls or learned, right? And so we are a learned district here at 287. We also are people that persist and overcome challenging situations. And as you see, love and connection is the fabric of all these stories. And that's something that District 287 promotes. So with that, those are the 3 individuals I highlight here with you tonight, and hope that these stories you take, but not only just take them in your heart to understand what they have accomplished and what we're grateful for, but also thinking about what District 287 does day in and day out. So thank you.
Thank you.
You did a beautiful job weaving together the stories of these three young people and the community that supports them inside North Education Center and outside. So thank you so much for that and for emphasizing the love and connection that is necessary to make that possible. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
You too. All right, we move next to the superintendent's report. So I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Nathan, come on up. I'd like to introduce Ms. Nathan, the Professional Learning Manager for District 287. She also is in charge of our West Metro program. And she's going to highlight the program recent graduation. And I also have to give a shout out to Dr. Elizabeth Lodge Rogers, who was at the graduation in my absence due to me being out sick. And so we're all sharing a little colds in the spring. So appreciate that you stepped in and supported our students that went through the West Metro partnership.
Thank you.
And you?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Superintendent Dowd, and members of the board. I'm really excited to be here tonight to share some information about our West Metro partnership and also some celebrations. To start, first, just so we're all aware of what West Metro partnership is a collaboration between District 287, North Hennepin Community College, and St. Cloud State University. The purpose of West Metro is to increase our diversity in our teaching staff here in District 287. It's also a pathway for our staff to get a license in their ABS, which is Academic Behavior Strategist, EBD, Emotional Behavior Disability, or ASD, the Autism Spectrum Disorder certification. This is also another form of professional development that we provide our staff. We help support them with 50% of tuition reimbursement, as well as 50% of their books and other fees. Here's just some statistics around the West Metro partnership thus far. I'm going to pull this up on my screen because I'm getting old and my eyes are going, and it's really hard for me these days to accept this, but all right, let's see. Okay, so one of the statistics I want to share with you is the tuition reimbursement. This was through last fall of 2023. We've been able to reimburse staff at $518,000 and $518,293 dollars. The first year for our West Metro partnership was 2017, and thus far we've had 69 participants in the West Metro partnership. It shows up here also the different roles. I know that's really hard to see, and that's even hard for me to see on my screen. But it looks like here it shows the largest on the left is people getting their ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder certificate, along with their EBD certificate is that next one. So I can also share this with you so you can have a closer look as well. The document, I'll make sure that you get that so you can look a little closer because it's really hard to see here. It also lists the racial identity of our participants, and that darker blue is our African American staff. The other blue is white, and then the other one is just other races. So that's how that is desegregated. Our participation information is 95% of classes have been completed successfully. This year, student teaching, we had 1 staff student teaching in the fall, and I believe this spring we had 6 staff student teaching in the spring. 16 staff have left the program, left the district, so they left the program and have never completed it. What happens then is we ask staff to reimburse us for that part of the tuition for as many years that they were not able to stay with us. And so then this spring, this is part of our celebration tonight, is 6 staff that have graduated. We did the celebration on May 2nd, so just a couple weeks ago. So let's talk celebration. Let's do the fun part. Juanine, we can roll this video, which highlights our graduates from West Metro Partnership this spring of 2023.
you again for allowing me to speak to you all, and I leave and bookend my speech with another quotation, but rather than with Dr. Seuss, this one is from former Secretary of Education, Art Duncan. I feel as though his quote applies especially to special education and the work we do. Each day, teachers come to school ready to tackle a job that is critically important, extraordinarily complex, often joyful, and at times heartbreaking. In essence, teachers help others to become their best selves, and I can think of no more important work. So with that, congratulations. I'll go forth and teach. Thank you very much.
So 6 of those participants received their ABS license, and then one of them, there's actually 7. Well, she went on, no, I believe all of them received their ABS license, but that was their initial licensure. One of them had other licensure and just had decided to get her add-on beyond what she already has. So the other celebration I would like to bring up on this next video with you is a former Westminster graduate of ours. Her name is Lakia Austin, and she is at South Education Center. Lakia graduated 2 years ago from West Metro, and she was honored as a teacher of the year from what channel? Channel 9? Fox, thank you. So here's just a quick video. I'm not sure if you had a chance to see this, but this is really exciting, and it's great for Lakia. She's a great teacher. So with this one, Lenine, because I couldn't insert it because I linked I took a picture and I linked it to the picture. So that's maybe why you're having difficulty loading this one. So the link should pop up. You might have to go outside of the presentation to get it to pop up. And that might be why we're having trouble opening it. Okay. There we go.
For Fox 9 top teachers, and today we have 2 very deserving educators.
Both of them doing what it takes to bring out the best in their students. This morning, Tom Butler stopped by South Education Center in Richfield to surprise Lakia Austin, a colleague nominated the special education teacher for her dedication to her students.
I really appreciate all the kids here, and I love the kids in my classroom. They bring me here every day.
They keep you coming back.
They do. I knew she was the bomb.com. I knew she was gonna win. I knew she was gonna win.
Oh, that's awesome. And they filled the gym at
That's okay. Yeah. And so I believe Lakia received $1,000 towards her classroom and a pizza party for her class from Papa Murphy's. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, did you say that she was an actual graduate from the program?
She was, yep. So she first got her ABS license and then went back and finished her EBD license. So she was fully licensed within the area that she was teaching. Yeah. So, any other questions or comments?
Thank you so much for being here. It's so helpful just to hear more details about this program because it is something that has been in place for a while. And so it's just useful to see the ways in which it's being accessed and having, really wonderful special results that we can celebrate. So yes, are there any questions that people have?
I guess I'll just ask one follow-up would be the eligibility to participate in this program. Is that something that everybody's eligible for after a certain period of time, or is it certain? Can you just give me a little bit more understanding of that? And then not only of the eligibility, but then the actual number of people percentage wise who are eligible, who are actually using this as a valued proposition for them.
Oh, percentage of our staff that use it?
Yeah,
Gosh,
that's okay.
I can answer the first one.
Okay.
How's that? So to be eligible for this program, you have to be with us for at least 1 year.
Okay.
You also have to not have any, thank you, discipline performance issues. Sorry, it's late in the day. I forget my vocabulary. So discipline issues. And then the other one is we would like their supervisor to recommend them and just make sure that it's a good fit. So those would be the eligibility requirements.
I have a question, which is whether this program is eligible for any state dollars, because I know in prior years, and then it's certainly on the table for this year, there have been a lot of monies to try to encourage people to go through these sort of grow your own programs. So is this one that qualifies under what currently exists, or is it something that we think could qualify in the future?
We do get grants to support this program. So this last year we received the Grow Your Own grant that the state put out. And so part of the funding is from that. We also have PD funds that we use to support the program as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Superintendent.
Thank you. Can you share a little bit about how not only it supports District 287, but how we could expand and possibly support our member districts as well?
Yes, so this conversation has come up recently. I know we've talked about it in the past, but with the way things were with COVID and things, but we're thinking that this is a good time to expand this to our member districts and provide this opportunity. The benefits of the member districts would be that the cohort is located at North Hennepin Community College, even if they're taking St. Cloud classes. And so it's a cohort model, and it's always nice to have friends and other colleagues to travel through this program with for support. And so that would be another benefit as well. I know that there's going to be more discussion around how we can help support our member districts with this program moving forward. So please keep your eyes and ears open for that.
Just a quick question, and then how is this going to be communicated to, do you know yet, to the districts? How?
I think we have an idea of working with CDAC and communicating with the other special ed directors and starting there. And from there, come up with a plan about how to best communicate that.
Great, thanks.
So just to add to that, I shared with the superintendents that this, we had our quarterly meeting and shared that we were talking about opening up and that we would go through the directors of special education. The CDAC is our advisory group, and really talk about, we all need special education teachers or teachers that are teaching special education. And so how can we, as being part of the intermediate, help all of our member districts and support staff through to employ your districts as well as us. So it's a good example of how an intermediate can intervene and help member districts.
That is really exciting, because I will say from our point of view in my member district, we have had grow your own programs in the past. It's been really hard to sustain it because the numbers are so small on an annual basis. So to have something that could be more of a collaborative that actually supports all of us is really exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that you're thinking about that.
Yes, I agree. I know like our numbers dropped off quite a bit during COVID, but now they're coming back up.
Yeah.
But we were speaking with St. Cloud the other week in North Hennepin in a conversation and just saying, how can we make that number even bigger? Because the more people that we have, more possibilities we have. Like we could have classes here, or talking about having our own staff be adjunct faculty, which would be really neat too, just because then you understand what our staff are going through and what a day looks like for our staff. So some of those things would be more possible with more people that we could bring into it too. So lots of benefits and different ways to think about it.
Any final comments or questions? No, Jeannie, thank you so much.
All right,
This
thank
was
you. Thanks
wonderful.
for the opportunity.
So we move to our instructional report. So excited to welcome our team from Northern Star Online. Come on up so that we get an update on how this year has been and plans for the future, and excited to turn it over to Principal David Vandenboom. I feel like you're here a lot. Do you like deserve an award maybe for like the most important?
That was last time.
Okay. I turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair and Superintendent Dowd. So this is our board report. We have a lot of exciting things this year going on. Oh, is it here? Oh, but I think it's not presentation mode. All right. And so first, just a little bit of background. NSO is a supplemental online provider, and the state has two different types of online schools, supplemental and comprehensive. And the main difference is that with a supplemental program, all of our students are enrolled in other schools. Even students that are taking all of their courses with us are still enrolled somewhere else. Where comprehensive, they're completely enrolled with another school and not really partnering or collaborating. So reasons for supplemental is uncountable. But a lot of the main ones are either schedule conflicts, health conflicts, sports, or really any reason that you could think of where a student can't do a course at a regular school for, again, uncountable reasons. And so NSO has been around from 2003 to this year. So this is actually our 20th year providing online courses within the state. And so this year, within our supplemental program, we had a little over 6,400 students from 210 different schools and 134 districts throughout the state. So this is a graph of our kind of annual enrollment, and the blue line is last year and the orange line is this current year. And so as you can see, our enrollment goes up throughout the year, where most of our other schools, it's fairly stable throughout. But with us, since we're continually adding students and enrollments, it increases over time, which makes it difficult to plan sometimes, but we do a great job, and Talia especially. And so you can see, I know tonight we were supposed to present the March board meeting or the financial report. And so at that time we had 848 ADM within our NSO school compared to 734 last year. So we're up over 100 ADM. And then again, that continues with the April numbers where we had 804 last year and 943 this year. So we're up about 140 ADM. This is our enrollment, kind of our total enrollment for the last 6 years. And so you can see in 2020, we had our highest, which was the year of COVID. And then we had a pretty steep decline of about half. And that was due to everybody doing digital distance online. And we just weren't as used during that time. But again, in 2020, there were 37 online programs. There's currently just around 100. And as you can see, even with that increase in number of programs, our numbers have still gone back up to where they were. And so we like to show this just because it shows our enrollment across the different subject areas. So before COVID, our major enrollments were in Phy Ed and Health was our biggest. And now that's kind of the middle of the pack, and our world language is really the highest. So the world language is the one on the right there. And so all of these numbers are ADM by different departments within our school. You can see the lowest one is the miscellaneous, and that is our honors mentor connection and science mentorship, which we'll talk about in just a little bit.
Evening, I'm Talia Vital. I'm the operations manager at NSO, so thank you for having me. So our school improvement plan for this year at NSO, we're focused on improving student outcomes, and by student outcomes, we're really looking at course completion rates for our students who are Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, or Latinx. And we looked at that group of students because we've seen that there's been a disparity between course completion rates among that population and our white students. And so we really took a two kind of pronged approach to work on improving those course completion rates and student outcomes. And so one area that we worked on is our instructional design model. And so we're working on implementing that throughout our NSO courses. And that aligns with culturally responsive teaching practices. And so while working on that within our courses and how they're designed, then we also focused with our teachers on implementing those culturally responsive teaching practices as well with students. And so through our professional development sessions and PLCs, teachers really focused on a couple of different key areas to work with our students around welcoming them into their courses, student outreach and using those practices within that. And just really making sure that even though these are online courses, that students still feel welcomed, they feel cared for, they feel like they're mattered and seen by their teachers. And so as we look at the completion rates, we can look between fall 2019 and now this last fall. And we really just looked at fall because the spring courses are still in progress, so we don't have that data yet. But we can see that we're moving in the direction that we're hoping to, that we can see that those course completion rates for our Indigenous, Black, Hispanic students did increase this year to various levels. And I think it's important to kind of look at that in the scope of what these last 4 falls have brought, and that we have, the year in blue is before COVID, and then the year in red is kind of that COVID fall where we saw that uptick. Students were all distance learning. It was really different. And then we saw things kind of take a dive as students were returning. And what we're encouraged by is that we're seeing things start to come back to where we were for pre-COVID. And so we're just hoping to continue to build on that with our students. And with the school improvement plan, the focus really is to continue this work into the next year. So it doesn't just stop with this school year, but we're looking at building upon that as we look into next year.
All right. And so next year and in the near future, for next year and the year after, we're going to develop more courses. And so next year, we're going to start developing an intro to education course, which we're doing in collaboration with our equity department. And then we also built out Korean this year, which we will offer in the fall. We're building out ASL 3 this summer, which we will also offer in the fall. And then an interior design FACS course. And then German 3, probably fall of 24, so after another year. And then over the course of the next school year, we'll also be developing a middle school program. So all of the core areas, along with Health Phy-Ed, electives will most likely come later because we'll have our hands full developing the other core courses. But we believe with our team and the structure that we have that we'll be able to build that out by fall of 24. And all of these courses come from interest of either parents or schools and kind of what different asks are of us. And so lots of schools have asked us about middle school, which is why now we've decided to start building that out. So very long quote, so I'm not going to read it all. But this was a quote from a parent just this spring. And I think the main things within this are that our courses are structured and guided. And I like the quote that it's impossible not to actually engage and learn. And I think it's important that while it's independent, the kids don't feel alone or on their own. So there is support and structure there to guide them through the pathway. And then just recently, I added this slide today, so I'm sorry it wasn't in the board packet for the presentation, but about a month ago, there was a state science fair winner from Eden Prairie High School. And so that student actually takes the mentorship course with us, which is how they entered the state science fair, and they are competing in the international science fair this weekend. And then yesterday was also announced the U.S. Presidential Scholar from Maple Grove, and they are also a student in our Honors Mentor Connection. Any questions?
Thank you so much. That was jam-packed full of really helpful and interesting information. And then that kicker at the end was really wonderful. So yes, questions, comments from the board. Kim, go ahead.
So I have 2 questions. One, is it primarily asynchronous or is it all asynchronous?
It's primarily asynchronous. We do have younger students in elementary that are taking high school courses that we try to offer more synchronous time. But the high school courses are mostly asynchronous, but students can always reach out to their teacher to set up meetings. Some have regular meetings on a weekly basis, some as needed.
So just to make sure I'm clear, do we serve all grades or primarily high schools? Because you just talked about.
Primarily high
elementary.
school.
Okay.
We do have some younger students taking high school courses though.
Okay. Oh, got it. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the most kind of
I was
extreme
not part
example.
of that gifted group of children.
I was not either. I think our most
Nice.
extreme example of that was a third grader taking AP Calc.
Okay.
And so in those unique situations, we're able to provide some support.
And then the second question I had was, the enrollment increasing throughout in a single school year, is that a typical pattern that you see?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
And so because every enrollment that we get in a traditional school, they get an enrollment and that's an ADM and it stays kind of throughout the year.
Yep.
But all of ours are course-based. So every course adds to the enrollment.
Gosh, yeah, I would think it would spike in the winter, stay home and.
It,
Whatever.
little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I do have a question about what happened to Mentor Connection. That was really great for
Yeah.
those of us who were here.
Yeah. And so that's the previous students. So these students are actually in the Mentor Connection. And then we still have a teacher and provide courses for that. And so we still have, I think, 20 to 40 students a year that are in that doing the science fair and the mentorship class. And so instead of having it here in the building, we moved it to NSO.
Nostalgia.
Yes.
setting in. Thank you.
Do you mind going back to the completion rate slide?
Oh, sorry, wrong one.
Yeah. this one. Great graph. The metrics and data of all of your information was really well done. I'm just curious as to what are the critical success factors of completion rates? So when you look across the different groups that you have listed here, are there certain things that are more critical to having completion rates rise than others?
We're still investigating that, and I don't think there's a clear answer as to that. And so one of the pieces that we did this year is these are our supplemental rates, but within our credit recovery program, we've done a little bit more reaching out and some of those things, which we found to have impacted the completion rate there. And so what we're going to do next year is transfer what we've done with that group of students to everybody else. And
Okay.
then we'll take a look and see what that does.
Because I mean, I think the numbers and the projections are still pretty good, right? I think as you're given what your stated goal was,
Yep.
how do we kind of keep moving that direction? I'm just curious as to what kind of knowledge do we have about what's most impactful? And are we then ensuring that we're doing as much as we can to try to keep not only sustaining that, but keep growing it to the levels you want?
I think another area that we've seen is just the students getting started. And so having, that momentum to get going and making sure that, they're getting through their orientation or they're going in their course right away. And so that's something that we're looking at putting even more support into for all of our students this summer. And then we're going to kind of see how that works and move that into next year as well. So that's another area that we're, in addition to then making sure that if we see students who are becoming disengaged, that we're reaching out right away. That's another piece that we're putting.
Yeah,
in.
actually, it's an interesting point because the other thought that comes from that comment would be how much, if it's their first versus it's their fifth.
Yeah.
I would assume your completion rates are higher for the fifth person than it is for the first. And how do you then affect that? So that's excellent. Good. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? I have one, which is I was really excited to hear about the likely expansion into middle school curriculum and coursework. And I have to assume that that is rooted in sort of need and demand that you all are hearing. So I would love to hear more about that because that is no small task to expand a whole new school, essentially.
Yes, it is no small task. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we say, wow, there's a lot of work to be done. And so we've set ourselves up, I think, pretty well for next year. And so many of you know John Fila, who's worked in the district for quite some time and done a lot of our curriculum development. So he will kind of lead some of our efforts to develop the core content next year. And then also Mike Smart will work with us to develop a few other pieces of that. So that I think with two of them guiding the process and working with our other teachers, we will be able to develop the content. That being said, a middle school is not just content. And so we've also hired an additional school counselor to help us with the support systems, the structure pieces, help kind of work with teachers too, because our middle school program will not be the same as our high school program. There will be more synchronous time and synchronous meetings with teachers and just a entirely different school setup than what we use at the high school. And so that's again why we can't offer it right away this fall, is because we need some time to set up all of those structures and supports. And then the following fall, we're confident that we'll be able to have it then.
I was a former middle school teacher, so I appreciate the care with which you are approaching this because they are a lovely and very unique group of human beings.
Yes.
All right, any final comments or questions? Thank you so much to both of you. Really appreciate you being here. We move to the board business section of the agenda, which is mostly just going to be me sharing a few announcements. So specifically on the board event calendar, wanted to point out sort of the cadence of our next 3 meetings and make sure that you have a sense of how we're going to approach the superintendent evaluation from a timeline point of view. And I'll share more about content in terms of how we're going to do it in the future. But at our next meeting, which is Thursday, May 25th, the superintendent is going to really share an overview of her work towards the Uber goal that was set for this year. So we'll get an overview here at the board meeting of that. At our first board meeting in June, we will hold our closed session for the superintendent evaluation. And then the second meeting in June, of course, we will do the public summary of that evaluation. So just wanted people to know that that's what's coming up over the next 3 board meetings on that front. Graduation. Wanted to make sure that you know there is a really great, helpful Google form where you can see the dates and times for all of the graduation ceremonies that happen across the district and RSVP for those that you are able to attend. Cannot encourage it enough. It is just an absolutely joyous, fun series of celebrations, and they're all different in different ways based on the program and based on the site. So I think Juanine has said that she's going to send that out again via email tomorrow so that you have another direct link to that Google form to check out. I think the one thing I would say is we don't typically have a formal role as board members in these graduation ceremonies. So that might feel a little bit different from our home districts where we have a very formal ceremony and a very formal role as board members. So just know this might feel more casual, but just as joyous and really maybe even more fun. The school board learning opportunities, thank you for people who have indicated interest in participating in the ad hoc policy committee and or the day of strategic planning happening in June. Appreciate those of you that have followed up with me directly. I will get in touch with you to sort of arrange next steps, but just wanted to put in a final plug if there's anybody who would like to participate in either of those to let either the superintendent or myself know. We are going to do once around the table now so that people can share with each other anything from their home districts or any special announcements before we move into closed session, just so that we can officially end the live stream and do all of our public business in public before we just do that one final topic in closed. So with that, I'm going to pause for a second. Are there any things that people would like to share for once around the table?
I'll do one.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we're not supposed to have favorite events as board members, but one of my absolute favorite events happened today at Wayzata, which is we've started doing a future educator signing ceremony. So we invite any of our students that have indicated an interest in going into education to come, and they, do the same thing where they where they're going or doing other things. So we had our largest group ever, which was probably around 20 or so, a handful of special ed people. So that was good. Lots of elementary education and some special ed or speech pathology or other things. And what was super fun this year is they each also got a voucher that guarantees them an interview in the district. once they get their
Oh,
degree.
that's amazing.
So,
Yeah.
did they? So yeah, so it was super fun.
That's a good move.
Yeah, good idea. We'll see how many come. It'll be really
Yeah,
interesting
that's
to
really
track,
cool.
like who comes back and.
Yeah, that was fun sharing that. Anybody else?
Maybe
Go
just
ahead,
one other
Michael.
thing that Edina High School on June 1st, we're actually going to have an adapted graduation ceremony for 2 of our students who would not be able to physically attend our actual graduation on Monday the 5th. And what I was really pleased with when I got this information was that even though it's only for 2 students, it will be the full regalia of everything for that. And so the care and sensitivity and drive to be able to not only recognize those students, but their families and our our integrated program to where we have both of our special services students and our regular students who are adapted together. That's all part of that. So that I didn't see that last year because I don't think we actually had any students that fell into that category. So I was just really pleased to see that. And of course, I then think of not only us as a district doing that, but then all the things that we're doing here at 287, that it's just, I like seeing in my own home district, us doing those things as much as we do all the wonderful things that we do here. So I was very, very pleased and honored to be able to participate with that as it's coming up.
There are 2 things that I wanted to share. One is people might have seen because the coverage of it was like astounding to me, but we had the Minnesota Supreme Court come hear a case at Richfield High School, and it was the Cruz Guzman case. So it was a school desegregation case that was so directly applicable to our students, to our community. In fact, 2 of the justices talked about Richfield High School as they were questioning the attorneys and trying to determine what arguments the attorneys were making and what would they apply to Richfield High School. And so it was just an extraordinary experience. And I know the court does, I think, 1 trial or 1 hearing, 1 set of oral arguments, I guess they're called, a year at a school. And so I hope that you get the opportunity to experience someday. And I just cannot say enough about how great the justices were with our students. They spent the entire day at the school, visiting classrooms, meeting with small groups. I was incredibly impressed with how they approached it and what an incredible learning experience it was for everybody. And then the second thing I wanted to share is you might have noticed the flowers on the table in front of Ann Becker here, but just before our board meeting, we had the annual retirement celebration. Ann is one of our retirees. So wanted to just appreciate the full class of our retirees and the beautiful event that Juanine helped coordinate, and specifically appreciate Ann for your service to the district, and that we got to celebrate you a little bit tonight with your loved ones present, and just so appreciate all that you have contributed to the district. And we'll do a little bit more celebrating. I know you still have 1 more board meeting to go with us before you're done, so this is not goodbye, but I think the flowers were a nice way to acknowledge this evening's event and our special appreciation to you.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, our next item on the agenda is a closed session, which will be led by the one and only Ann Becker. So pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, the board may hold a closed session to determine the asking price for real property to be sold by the district and/or to develop or consider offers or counter offers for the disposition of real property. The real property to be discussed is located at 4172 Adair Avenue North in Robbinsdale, Minnesota, zip code 55422. Is there a motion to move into closed session for this item?
So moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion by Michael Birdman and a second by Ruthie Dallas. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye. We will move into closed session. I'll give people just a brief break for facilities, water, etc. We will reconvene at 7:25, which according to my watch is 6 minutes from now. Yeah.
Do you have enough people for that strategic planning?
We could take 1 more if you want to come. Okay, great.
Please.
It's June 15th. Okay.
I'm already fine with that.
Okay,
yes.
great. Thank you. I'll make sure that you're on the list.
I would volunteer for the policy thing, but I'm doing that at my district.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, no, it's an area I like working in.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. And so Michael, yeah, I think it'll probably be the three of us.
Great. It'll be really, I'm looking forward to it.
Good. I'm so glad that you can both do it.
The other people.
has a concession. Yeah. He wasn't wearing his helmet.
You know, here's the language that other people use around when.
If you need help with the policy stuff, I'd be willing to help with that.
Yeah. I think that will be Jackie. Not yet met probably. Because he's consistent. She was our board rep. Until September. Right. And staff members.
Too, and
I'm just like,
yes.
doing it.
Oh, okay.
That we're doing.
Well, yeah.
Yes, we want to. Here, I would like to hear.
Electives any year, so.
Yeah,
mean,
I don't
yeah,
know.
so we have- Yeah, and, or I remember education 102 and how we wanted to innovative. We also have
We used to teach kids to clean.
some
And I was like, well, I was like,
now
they just
call it community engagement
And that's.
services that
Yeah,
you can
and
take,
like,
and
it's
those
basically
two
like
are
they're
like.
you know it. That's
Okay.
Yeah, no, I.
Site of the.
Right. Figure it out.
Torn down.
We had, I think for a while, yeah, the community engagement class is newer, but, the education 1 and 2.
It's lovely.
We'll have to donate it or?
Well, that'd be good. It's very,
1 and 2, and knowing that we had.
I mean, it's just a very lovely, lovely little,
Okay.
you know.
Well, that's- I'm glad you
It's
know
a
what
lot.
it is.
Yeah.
I should just drive
And then
back.
They got to, in the Trojan Tactics in the building, the community engagement class, they're going out into our elements. So, and our.
Or even if we did.
So they're doing, like, I got to see the list this year, and it's help in this class, grade math, right? This class is grade math, Right. More like.
They might be putting it up.
Okay. In.
Yeah.
For years. So my.
I drove.
Oh, yeah.
Buckle in. I was like, I'm sorry.
What?
Yeah, right. This is great. It's so frustrating. Oh, that's okay. That's fine. This is like.
Total missing.
No, they ended up letting him go. He was there for a little.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Until this.
He had a real bad scrape.
Oh, they're still wilder. I was like, they are, and then they sign their intent letter. And they just got.
And it had to be big, so I mean, like, he has a scrape.
And the FCC requires, you can't have like a corporate owner, you have to have individuals. So they were like, we need your social security number. Send it to the FCC. Your three names, like social security number, board of directors are on a radio station.
That is so
Yeah.
interesting.
We sold it years after that, but for a while I was.
And then, all of the pictures were on the
Very
board.
small.
And then I saw.
We just had our director of technology playing like his own personal like.
Yeah. This.
Like, you can hear it from like, you could probably hear it. Let's like, I said. I can hear it from my house. When I got to the kitchen, it's not gonna say. Was our.
Fun.
She got.
Yeah.
That's always dicey.
Telling them to cease and desist.
She's a junior.
My dad-
So this was her, there's some things in place. We have a board team.
Like,
And.
expecting that.
Work when I turned 15. Like,
This was a lot of like.
took 9 months to leave.
Yeah.
Back.
And
I was 15.
a lot of chemistry.
Here, I thought we were
Let's
gonna
see.
get out of here.
Well, we'll, we are, it could be fast. Yeah, exactly. I had no idea that it was.
I didn't listen.
I'll send you all.
You-
Great.
You've known all along.
I know.
I'm glad we finally got this.
Okay, it is 7:20. Oh. Gotta get the text set. Do you need to re-record this one, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I just kind of shut off.
Okay. You give me the signal when we're ready to start.
Pardon? Yeah.
Maybe before we officially start, we should say, thank you, Anne, for wanting to bring this to our attention before you walk out the door. So we might be able